Can they hear me? They hear me live out there. Next beat. That ain't the beat I wanted to.
Those was wood
another
beats
beat.
right
Another
there.
beat. Nope. Give me another beat. Give me another beat. Nope. That's not it. That's the beat. Turn it up.
Oh, word.
Turn it up. I gotta hear it a little louder. Can you make it louder than my headphones? Turn me up in my headphones. I'm still stuck in the 80s/90s. Lottos, kangaroo boots, natty ghosts, Velas, jumpsuits and troops, Junos, color Levi's, Bugs Bunny sweaters with the rhinestone ring on it. Fighting and making up the next day. Nobody getting shot. Working a hustle and a get it, a get got. We had love for the streets, our family, our foes, our friends. Respect for the elderly. Pager/payphone, sneaking in the Adams Theater. Watching Crush grooving tougher than leather. Hopping gates out the college port to bang out, cause you don't wanna get caught at mom's crib or at Von's crib. Eating funny dinner with the fam. Church every Sunday, 8 o'clock a.m. And even if I fell asleep in the back row or played sick, no matter what, man, I still had to go. 80s, baby. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. 80s, baby.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to webisode number 82 of the X-Cast. I'm your host, Josh Houselander. Today is day 5071 in the search for Tim Shovelday. With me, as always, the stalwart, ever-vigilant defender of all things here on the X-Cast and the EmpireMedia.com, Adam Hernandez. What's up, Adam?
Not much. How you doing tonight, Josh?
I'm awesome, dude. How are you?
Good. I think we kind of ran into a quick little topic before we went on the air tonight.
Okay.
And it was that quirkiness that some teachers, that some teachers have.
Yeah, this is what we were talking about before the show aired.
Like I was telling Josh before we came on the air tonight that Josh picked up a green pen that was sitting on the table. And he's like, "Oh wow, a green pen." I'm like,
I just started right with it. I was like, "Oh, this pen's green. That's neat."
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I had a teacher in 8th grade, a math teacher, where the only way that we could check our work, the only pen that we could check our work in was green. Couldn't be red, couldn't be orange, couldn't be blue, black, whatever. Had to be a green pen. And we actually got in trouble if we didn't check our work in a green pen.
That is so stupid.
It is stupid. I mean, look, I understand, trying to get kids to follow direction. Mm-hmm. But is that are you going to sit there and live and die on that hill?
Mm-hmm. You are going to seriously, legitimately mark down someone's math grade because of the color of their pen.
That sounds funny the way you put it, but
yeah, I mean, that's,
Is that like a pen racism or something?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I don't think people should be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their pen.
I mean, it was so ridiculous. I remember I got in trouble too a couple of times because I didn't have a green pen.
Did he supply green pen?
No, he didn't supply a green pen.
Oh, that's bullshit then.
He didn't supply a green pen.
That's BS.
And it was the most ridiculous out of all the things that I could remember in middle school that were just utterly ridiculous. Because that's a certain age where I think a lot of teachers start instilling like just ridiculous policy within their classroom. Mm-hmm. Just because I think you're at a certain age there where you might, they may think you have to be pulled back a little bit and whatever.
Do you know how much that sucks as a parent too? When your kid says to you at 7 o'clock at night, "Oh crap, Dad, I have to have a green pen for tomorrow."
Yeah.
Not a black pen or a blue pen, which you got somewhere in the house.
Yeah.
They have a green pen. And now you got to go to Rite Aid, after dinner that night, get your kid a green pen. And know what? They might not even have green pens at Rite Aid. Where the hell do you even get a green pen?
You're going to find an Office Depot open at like 9 o'clock at night.
Stuff like that is so annoying. Listen, I thought it was stupid when you first told me this story. Mm-hmm. But
see, it's sinking in now.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't actually quite wrap my head around the stupidity of it. Because I just assumed that if this guy was that OCD, or if he legitimately thought that there were problems with people cheating and fixing each other's papers, and it just has to be done in green. It has to be done in green for my records or something along these lines. It just makes for a better classroom. I just assumed that homeboy had a box of green pens in the front of the class and he handed them out to everybody. But to actually require that kids show up with a green pen,
mm-hmm.
That's dumb as hell.
It is. It's stupid.
No, that I can't.
Did you ever have a weird quirk?
Not that I can. No, but what's funny to me when you say this is a math teacher is I remember my math teachers in like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, them basically saying that, like, pens are, like, illegal. Like, there's not supposed to be a pen anywhere near you while you're in
You went to a
math
Catholic
class.
school,
Yeah.
for a time too.
Pen is, or pencil is for math. We had to, I went Catholic school, K through 10.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always a thing with math classes, that only pencils during math and only black or blue pens for all the other subjects. Like, you couldn't put an English paper in pencil, but you couldn't do your math quiz in pen.
See, that seems like a middle school thing to me.
Yeah.
Like, when I got to high school, like, teachers really couldn't give a shit what, especially in college, too. I mean, in college, it didn't matter. I mean, if you were, pen, pencil, they didn't give a fuck, just as long as, you did the work or whatever. I mean, there's a couple of occasions where you had that one, dickhead teacher or dickhead professor that referred it a certain way. It's like, fuck you.
No,
especially in college when I'm paying for it.
When I was in college, and I was in college for way too long, but when I was in college,
so was I.
Yeah, a lot of people go to college for 7 years.
Yeah, they call it doctors.
But when you had those teachers in college, I always kind of, my thought was always like, Go teach middle school somewhere, dude. Seriously, just go teach grade school, okay? We don't need this stuff here. We're grown-ups. We may not act like it. Some of us may not look like it, but we're grown-ups, and we should be treated like grown-ups.
I know there's been so many times when I take a college class where I'd sit there and be like, you know what, asshole, I pay your salary,
right?
So shut the fuck up.
You know what, man?
Like, I appreciate your knowledge you teach in this class. I do. I will respect you for that. But, don't sit here and, I don't know. There's certain aspects, though, where they would try to,
oh, yeah.
Dictate little tiny things that had no impact whatsoever on the rest of the class. So that's them trying to be a douchebag.
Right.
And, I don't know.
My favorite professor in college, who I actually hope to get as a guest at some point on the greatest podcast in history, because Tiffany Farisi, the other host of that show, respects him a lot as well too. But one of the things that I always loved about him that he would say in his classes is he would always refer to college students as paying customers. He would. It's not something he said all the time. But
it's true, though.
But he said, "Hey, you guys are paying customers. Like, I gotta, I mean, I'm here to do a job, but I'm not here to bust you up over it either. You guys are paying my bill."
I think that's an excellent mentality. Look. I think there's a certain level.
It's logic too.
Yes. There's a certain level of respect that I think that students in college need to have towards a professor.
I agree.
I think that absolutely comes with the territory. You're taking their class. I think that obviously you don't want to be a distraction. You want to be disruptive. You want to sit there. You want to listen. You don't want to disrupt anybody else that's taking the class. Look, that's fine. I think attendance policies are bullshit.
Me too.
In college.
Me too.
I think it's stupid. And the only reason why it seems like, well, one of the main reasons why a professor may have an attendance policy is because they teach from the fucking textbook.
Right.
I mean, and the students were, smart enough to catch on to that. Like, I don't need to go to this class. I mean, they're taking everything from the textbook.
Right.
But attendance policies were stupid in college. But like I said, there's a certain level of respect that I think that you have to have when you take a college class. Obviously, again, like I said, you don't want to be disruptive to the professor. You want to show that respect to them. You don't want to be disruptive to anybody else. But yeah, I mean, I think there's another level of respect that a professor, I think, needs to give to the student, because he's right. They're paying customers. They're
Right.
paying to be there.
Right.
And if they don't want to show up a certain day, then they don't have to show up. You know how that's going to affect them? It may affect them when the next test comes around and they don't know what the hell, to do, or they don't have all the answers because they weren't there that day. Everyone's an adult. I mean,
Right.
they know the circumstances. They know the the consequences of not showing up to class, in any one particular day or consecutive days or whatever.
I had a lab partner years ago when I was young guy doing my undergrad, and I don't remember the dude's name or anything. Like, he's a young guy like me, and I remember him going to the professor and actually saying, "Listen, I know this is a lab class, and I promise you, I will always be at all.
lab.
I will always be at every lab. I'll always be there for every lab, but I work really weird hours." And am I going to be penalized if I don't show up to class for the lectures and just read the book and take my chances and, just do what I can on the tests? Professor said, no, that's fine. That's fine. Guy got a 4.0.
Yeah.
No, he was working weird hours. It was a strange schedule for him, but he had to take that class. He showed up to every lab. Was great. He read the book at home, and he did well in the class. That's it.
I think as a professor, I think you have to certainly appreciate that level of honesty,
Right?
And, just being completely upfront, and I'm sure that professor understood his situation to some extent because he may very well have been in his shoes at one point or another.
Yeah, and they basically.
You know what that is? It's two adults sitting down, working something out,
discussing it.
Yeah, discussing it and being, hey,
And he was basically saying, like, listen, I'm not asking for anything extra, okay? If I can't do well on the test because I didn't show up to class, that's on me.
Sure.
But I just want to make sure that I'm not going to be penalized just for not showing up. I mean, if the penalty for not showing up is you don't learn the proper material and then you fail the test, well, that's your problem.
Exactly.
That is totally your problem. And that's where you as a student, but as an adult, you have to weigh the responsibility.
Yeah, you have to weigh the consequences.
Do you know what something that I didn't like? Because, I mean, you know me, Adam. I hate uniformity. So instantly, I hear you have to use a green pen, and I'm just like, this is why I'm a libertarian guy. This is why, because I hate uniformity. No, I don't want to use a green pen. Like, the only reason I don't want to use a green pen is because you told me I have to. That's it. I had no problem with green pens until you said I had to.
You know what I would do? You know what I'd do if I would take, I'd be like, oh man, I don't have a green pen, but I do have this yellow and blue pen.
Right.
So I'm going to write it out in blue and then copy over it in yellow.
Yeah. And it's going to be like, define green. What truly is green to you,
oh,
sir?
Jesus Christ.
But you know what? Something I actually didn't, excuse me, that I did not like in college.
What's that?
Was because although I do feel that we're all adults, but I kind of what you were saying is that you should have respect. I actually didn't like it when a professor would tell you to call them by their first name.
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, that always kind of, and I understand why they're doing it. They're trying to just be easygoing,
trying to lighten the mood.
But yeah, and you call him, hey, Professor Johnson, and he says, it's just Mike. Just call me Mike. I was like, no, I actually, I have respect for you because of what you've been saying, and I actually do want to call you Mister or Doctor or Professor. I didn't
find that annoying, but I'm with you. I always refer to them as Professor or Doctor or Mister or Mrs. or whatever. I never liked calling them by their first name.
I'm not going to use the real names here too because I don't want to out anyone. Because people do know where I went to college, or some people do, and it was a very small college. But what I thought was very cool was I had a couple of professors that did that over the years. Said, yeah, you have to. Oh no, just call us. Call me Bill. And I never would. I said, no, I'm Professor. I would still always call him Professor. And I remembered after I graduated and came back for something, and I referred to that person, because they must have remembered it to some degree, that I always wouldn't do that. And I said, hey, Professor something, and I had already graduated, got my diploma, and he said, hey, now you have to call me Bill. and I kind of appreciated that to some degree. I was like, that's actually kind of cool. He's saying like, no, we're colleagues now. I'm not your professor. We're colleagues now. And I was like, okay, all right.
I still call him.
Yeah, no, I probably would too. I probably did too. But I just I thought, what, that's kind of cool though. That's kind of cool. Like he's actually remembering that and recognizing it. But I don't know. So I guess I'm kind of like, I don't like the uniformity of silly things, but yeah, there's respect to be had for sure.
Sure.
For sure. Some people that do not have a lot of respect for each other. I guess we shouldn't be shocked by this because it's been going on since before our parents were born. But Jerusalem's going crazy, man. Jerusalem is erupting right now. Some Palestinians are dead. This is, basically, it comes in part from the new embassy being put in Jerusalem, which is something I support. The
United States moved from the embassy.
Right, yeah, the U.S. embassy being moved to Jerusalem, which is the capital, so it does kind of make sense, and it's a recognizing of Israeli sovereignty in essence, but it's blown up over there. Of course, everything's going crazy. What do you have to say about this, Adam? I mean, what's
okay? This is look. I see it. I see that in every other place in the world, the capital of a particular country houses all the embassies. Obviously, in Washington D.C., there's what is it? That one street that has like right. all the embassies are from all the different countries in the world that have that have diplomatic relations with the United States. But Jerusalem isn't your regular run-of-the-mill capital of a country. Mm-hmm. Jerusalem has been fought over for hundreds of years.
It is claimed to be the holiest city by the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians as well. Although,
what is it? It's like the third holiest city, isn't it?
It's Mecca,
third
Medina, holiest and then, for the Muslims.
Yep.
First holiest for the Jews and the Christians. Mm-hmm. One thing I love to give props to the Christians about Jerusalem because they decided quite some time ago, about 50 to 75 years ago, they said, hey, you know what? We're, our kingdom's in heaven. You can have Jerusalem. If you do want to keep fighting over this useless piece of land over there, then you go right ahead. So, big props to the Christians for that. Because Jerusalem's actually supposed to be an international city under the original guidelines of Israel, where it's supposed to actually be an international city where Jews, Christians, and Muslims are all welcome to go there. But that, of course, didn't work out because no one over there can get along.
No, and that's when you can't look at this. You can't look at the situation with Jerusalem and housing your embassy there as any normal situation. It's not like there being a dispute about having, your embassy in Moscow as opposed to St. Petersburg or, London as opposed to Manchester. It's a different situation. There's a different set of circumstances there. Obviously, it's a very, very contested area. It's a very contested city, and it remains like that to this day, obviously, right. From the violence that has broken out over it. And to me, and I said it before, and I'll say it again, this wasn't one of those issues that the United States had to divulge themselves into. There just wasn't, because there weren't going to be any winners when it came to this. And I understand the religious aspect of it. I do. Mm-hmm. But the United States, it's a secular form of government. I mean, we're not a theocracy here. We are a secular form of government, and we should and in most cases we need to, and perhaps all
But hey,
cases,
you know,
we need to.
Israel is not a theocracy either.
I know, but we are. Yes, you're right. Go ahead.
No, that's it. No,
Okay.
you can finish.
You're right. To me though, this wasn't one of those issues that we needed to, like I said, divulge ourselves into, because we're supposed to be a mediator when it comes to the Mideast peace process. We're supposed to be that mediator. We're supposed to be the ones that are going to bring the Israelis and the Palestinians to the table. We're supposed to, help them get along and push along that process. And the only thing that this did was have the United States choose sides. And you know what? The United States was Israel always knew that too. Israel always knew that the United States was going to be in their corner to some extent or the other. The United States didn't need to move their embassy to Jerusalem to prove that point.
Okay, that I think it's a good point, Adam. And I'm not even gonna. I have actually zero desire to even debate it with you.
Mm-hmm.
But aside, let's try to put aside. I mean, if you have more to say, please throw it in. I'm not trying to, totally derail your counterpoints here, or your bullet points, I should say. But let's kind of take a sidestep from the idea of what the United States has to do with this, because you can support what Trump did, or what Trump pushed through. It's not like it's only him, but what Trump pushed through. You can oppose it. I mean, what did Trump do? Trump did basically what Reagan, Bush, Clinton, and Bush said they were going to do, and then didn't. And Trump actually did it.
I question why, though. They may have said that, and once they got into office, they're like, "Hey, you know what? It's probably best if we don't do this."
And all that's fine. Really, all that is fine. You could have supported them, opposed them, support President Trump now, oppose President Trump. But aside from the U.S., the United States' role in this, I kind of don't understand why the U.S. or so many other nations have to have a role in this at all. I'm not one of these guys that thinks life is cheap or that doesn't think it's bad when I hear about somebody dying somewhere. Of course, I think it's terrible. But do we want to take this conflict that's been going on forever, going on for 100 years in Israel? Do we want to turn that into a reason for World War III? Because I'm going to be very ashamed of this world, of the United States and of other places, if we let the Israel-Palestine conflict turn into World War over stuff that, quite frankly, does there ever come a point, I guess is my question, does there ever come a point when developed, powerful nations of the world say, if these people want to fight so bad over there, why don't we let them fight? I guess that's my view on it. And yeah, I mean, do I take a side? Yeah, for the most part. Of course, there's been atrocities. There's been things that have happened. There's been there's been things that had to happen. There's been things that shouldn't have happened. And I admit, for full disclosure purposes, yeah, I mean, when you look at history, I think Israel's been on the right side more often than not. And I do support their right to have a sovereign nation. But regardless of all that, or maybe I should say irregardless of all that, does there come a point when other nations should just say, hey, just do what you're going to do? I mean, this is how world wars start.
I agree with you.
Is by people sticking their nose in pretty much where it doesn't belong, and
But isn't that what the United States is doing though?
Yes, and this is what I oppose. Yeah, this is what I oppose. You know, this idea that I don't understand why. I don't like it that Israel and Palestine, or Israel and the Middle East, have been diametrically opposed to each other on so many different things. And you can say what you want. Oh, it was this land, it was that land, it was this bit of politics, it was this guy that was elected, it was this. But I mean, it's a religion thing, though. I mean, their war is based on. It's
a war that's been going on, like I said, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
of
years.
Right. I mean, this particular one, yeah, it's been going on for over 100 years, basically, for 100 or so years. This specific thing,
it's modern day crusade,
right? But but these people have been fighting each other for 1,000 years. Truth be told, so. Does there ever come a point where we just say, let them fight, for God's sakes? I mean, you know, it's like you are, you know, we were talking about teachers and students earlier. You know, I mean, how they've done it back in the good old days, right? I know the good old days. The good old days weren't always good. I understand that.
Well, with you in Catholic school, when they take a ruler to you,
that you know that was.
Have you ever got hit by a ruler?
No, that was before my time. That was before my time. But when does it come to that point where, you know, where two boys just keep fighting every single day in gym class? Does it ever get to that point where you just say, "Hey, just let them fight"? Let them figure it out?
I don't know if it'd be a fair fight.
Well, maybe it wouldn't be. But
I mean, Israel would wipe the Palestinians off the face.
Well, then maybe we aren't quite as firmly on Israel's side as some people around the world, or in this.
Well, Israel, I think, is as powerful as they are because of the United States, because of the backing.
Yeah, but the United States gives a lot of money to the Middle East as well.
Well,
so why give either?
Not necessarily Palestine, though.
No, but I mean,
they do their dealings with Jordan. They do their dealings
Saudi
with
Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. No. But why should Palestine be given money, though? I mean, they're you know, I mean, we definitely don't want to fund both sides of a conflict.
What's that like? I mean, because we're talking about a group of people here, who, I mean, who don't have a country to call their own. I mean, I think you could say that Israel was obviously once in this, you know, in this situation before, where they didn't. Because when did Israel become a state? Was it after World War II? Obviously.
Well, I mean, the process begins after World War I.
Okay.
You know, is when, I mean, basically, a lot of Jews helped fund the war effort for England and other places in World War I, and they were promised a homeland in return.
And that's always been one of the talking points here. One of the obviously the two-state solution, and I don't see why that's such a bad thing. I mean, there's land, it seems like, that's already designated for Palestine.
But it never seems to work, because as soon as any of that land,
well, it never seems to work now, because you've got a total dickhead in office in Benjamin Netanyahu that keeps on pushing the issue. It keeps on pushing the issue with these settlements on this contested land. And he keeps on pushing it, and it'll never get done. He's even come out and said before that he's not looking for a two-state solution. Mm-hmm. I mean, in which case you're going to continue to have violence.
He's not looking for a two-state solution if that second state comes out of his land.
Yeah, but not all of it is in his land, though. Of course, there's going to be some contested areas, but you can't come to an agreement if you don't take the time to sit down and talk. It doesn't seem like something that Benjamin Netanyahu is ever wanted to do.
Does anybody want to, though? Truly,
To stop the violence amongst that's affecting your own people. I think absolutely.
but what violence is there to stop in this particular issue? I mean, the embassy goes up. Jerusalem.
Well, this particular issue, you stop the violence by not moving the embassy to Jerusalem to begin with.
Well, no, but I don't agree with that, because Jerusalem is their land. That is not a contested piece of land.
No, you're right. That's in Israel. But again, like you were saying earlier, why do we have to stick our nose in it? Was it hurting anybody prior when the United States and the rest of the civilized world had their embassy in Tel Aviv as opposed to Jerusalem?
But that isn't sticking our nose in, though, because
I think it is.
You are going to have an embassy in a country that you have good relations with, and you should put the embassy where they want you to put the embassy, and where they want us to put the embassy is Jerusalem.
But this isn't a regular situation that we're dealing with when it comes to capitals of a particular country.
I understand that, but my question is, aside from the Donald Trump United States aspect, aside from that, I don't actually care about that much, because the embassy's there and violent protests erupt, but it's pretty fair to say that violent protests seem to erupt. They're looking for reasons for violent protests to erupt.
So why continue to push the issue?
Well, but
why push the button?
So that's.
It was one of those.
It's not the United States doing this.
But what I mean exactly. What's the point in all of this? Why do you, I mean you've had the embassy in Tel Aviv for forever,
but they don't want it there.
Okay, well,
our allies don't want it there.
Okay, well, tough shit. Are you not going to be our ally anymore because we want that? That was my point prior. We didn't have to move the embassy to Jerusalem.
Okay, but we did.
For Israel to be on our side.
But we did.
Israel was always going to be on our side.
So I guess
we're always going to have an ally in Israel. We didn't have to move the embassy to Jerusalem in order for that to happen.
Okay. Point taken. I'm not disagreeing with that point, but we already did, so it's a moot.
It was a bad move.
Okay. I mean, we don't know. We don't know that,
It was Josh. It was Donald Trump wanting to keep a campaign promise.
Okay, that's fine.
All it was.
That's fine. But I don't actually care about Donald Trump. That is actually irrelevant. I mean, I realize that you're using this as a talking point to criticize Trump, and that's fine.
I'm not using it as that was the first time I mentioned Donald Trump in this entire time.
But it's out there, and that's fine. But I guess my question is why? I mean, do you think Israel would be happier if we said, we're not giving you any more money, and we're not giving any money to your enemies either, and you just take care of this? Just handle it? Just do what you want? Just back away?
So they can kill a bunch of Palestinians?
Well, I mean, you work under the assumption that Israel is a terrible nation.
I never said that.
No, but that's working under. I mean, some Palestinians died under this protest, but they didn't take this as an opportunity to commit genocide on Palestinians.
Never said genocide. Never said Israel's a bad country.
Okay, no, I know you do. Well, but you're kind of hinting that if we backed away, that Israel would just wipe out a bunch of Palestinians.
I'm saying that because they have a huge position of power, and I think.
Shouldn't you have a huge position?
I'm not saying that they would target innocent civilians. That's not what I'm saying at all. But there probably would be collateral damage in this sense if the United States were to back away in that sense and let Israel do what they wanted to do.
Maybe it would lend some stability. Instead of them fighting the same fight over and over and over and over and over again for 100 more years or 1,000 more years.
So you're talking about just the United States is backing out of that region of the world altogether.
Maybe not altogether. They can have an embassy there. They can talk. They can have allies. But yeah, but monetarily and
So no more money to Israel.
correct.
This is all we're giving you,
Yes.
and you do what you need to do. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and just say we would love it if you guys, came to peaceful resolutions here, but if you guys insist on fighting forever, then fight forever. Why do we have to be there? So my question is, why would other nations try to jump in on this and take a side, one side or the other, and risk? I mean, it just makes it worse. It makes it way worse.
Well, I think in that sense, Josh, I think what you're looking at here is a similar situation to what's happening with Syria. I think one of the reasons why the United States is still involved in the whole Syrian situation, I think it's a human rights thing, because there's it always kind of bugs me when the United States tries to put on that humanitarian masquerade, especially in this part of the world, because this isn't the only part of the world where there is human atrocities happening. I think we've mentioned this before.
Yeah,
there's human atrocities happening in Africa. Obviously, there's human atrocities happening in Asia, especially in North Korea and Cambodia and so on and so forth. The difference,
China's human rights
thing
that isn't very stellar either.
Absolutely. The difference with the Mideast is obviously the natural resources that come out of there. And why is the United States still involved in the whole Syria thing? Yeah, maybe it's to some extent that innocent people are getting gassed by Bashar al-Assad. But if the United States were to completely pull out of that situation, then the next, toughest guy on the block there is Russia. And I don't think the United States wants to have Russia have that kind of stranglehold in that part of the world.
That's true, and that's why I don't understand why the United States can't say we'll back out as long as everyone else does.
I don't think other people are willing to do that.
Well, we'll never know if they never try.
No, you're right. I mean, I think that.
Listen. You talked about the natural resources of the Middle East. Oil is, of course, the big one. Jerusalem is one of the very few spots of land in the entire Middle East that is worthless. There is no oil underneath that sand. It is a worthless piece of sand with no natural resources whatsoever. And to me, if two groups of people want to fight over it, then they should be allowed to.
Well, that's the thing, though, too, is it obviously goes much, no pun intended, it goes much deeper than the oil. I mean, there's strictly a religious aspect. There's strictly religious, baselines to all of this. It has nothing to do with oil. It has nothing to do with gold or whatever. This is strictly, religion.
And it's fine. And so I don't know why people need to stick their nose in it.
I don't either.
I don't understand it, and I often wonder, do we back? It seems like we push closer to World War III when we back or don't back different countries, different region, different countries in this region, and I often wonder, do we back Israel because when World War III does inevitably happen, we want them on our side?
We see this is the different. I mean, and you as anybody would know, Josh, that this is. I mean, this is why, being a world leader. This is why being president of the United States is such a tough job. It's not. I mean, it's. And I remember you saying this before. Being president of the United States isn't just about making its citizens money. It's about being a leader. And I think this is a perfect example of that. I think that, when you are president of the United States, obviously you yield a pretty big stick. And the moves you don't make can be as important, if not more important, than the moves that you do make. And I think this is a perfect example of that. The whole Mideast, Jerusalem thing is, I mean, the move that you don't make here may be more important than the move that you do make. And I think that, and I don't know if somebody, I won't say his name, who was involved with real estate in New York City for his entire life is prepared to make that type of judgment, that type of call. I mean, this right here is why it's important that you have some experience.
Yeah, I understand
within your leadership. But
hey, please know though too that Israel's happy with this.
Of course, they're happy with it.
I mean, so. That to me, this is just this month's skirmish over there. We're making it a big deal here in the United States because I'm not saying that loss of life isn't always a big deal. It is, but I mean, let's face it, we're making it a big deal because we played a role in it. But it's not like us doing this or not doing this was going to, like, oh, they were this close to peace over there. They were this close to solving all the problems over there.
This doesn't help it, though. This brings it back, though.
I don't think it brings it back.
I think
forward.
It does. It does.
Come on, there's
these. How do you sit down and how do you, if you're going to try to mediate this, which the United States is going to try to do, how do you try to mediate this and have the Palestinians trust you?
I don't know why the United States is involved in mediating this at all.
But that's a completely different question, though, Josh. That's something else. The United States is going, like you said, they already moved the embassy to Jerusalem, so it's a moot point. Anything else is a moot point. Anything else besides the United States wanting to indulge themselves, wanting to be that mediator, is a moot point because that's something the United States is always going to try to do.
True, but if you're going to mediate, you should mediate from the position in which you think is proper. And if you think the proper thing is to have the embassy where the nation of Israel wants you to have your embassy, then perhaps that's the better point to mediate from.
See, that's again. That's
I know you're not a Netanyahu fan, but he's, he's calling this. He's happy about this. He's calling this.
Of course, he's happy.
Well,
of course he's happy.
But
I mean, but again, that's where I divvy
but
back
is the other side capable of being happy? I mean, that's I think an issue with, and I think they are. I
think they are. Yeah, absolutely.
With what? With the destruction of Israel?
What, the Palestinians?
Yeah.
No, and that's an unreasonable. That's an unreasonable, obviously. That's what I'm looking for. Stipulation that if anybody comes to the table with something like that, then you laugh in their face and you tell them to get the fuck out.
I mean, because I look at a nation like Israel, and I look at the tumult that is the Middle East. Just the absolute. I mean, it's often chaos over there in the Middle East, in many places. And I look at how the other Muslim nations are run. And I see how their human rights are not great. their liberty is terrible. And the question I like to raise from time to time is, of all the countries in the Middle East, where are you most free as a Muslim to practice your Muslim faith exactly how you want to? And the answer to that question is Israel.
Are you free to do that in Jordan? Iraq now? Free to do it there? Egypt? Are you free to...
You're completely free to do it in Israel.
What I'm saying,
The answer is still Israel.
I'm saying
you're naming some good places where they are fairly peaceful for that, for the standard that that is over there. But the answer is still Israel. It's the only place where you truly have the right to practice your religion how you see fit.
And that's fine. I mean, what's the point though?
The point is it's a big deal. The point is that they are allowing religious freedom there. But when you have violent protests, they're going to be shut down, whether it's in Israel, in Saudi Arabia, in the United States, in Jordan, in Iraq, in Russia or France or China.
I said that's never a point that I was arguing against, though. I mean, I never thought that you weren't a free person in Israel. I thought that was certainly.
But you're not a free person in most of the other places in the Middle East.
That's fine, and I'm glad Israel is like that. But that still doesn't settle for me the whole notion of taking on this move when you didn't have to, and knowing that it was going to spark violence. You knew that it was going to spark violence, but you did it anyway.
Well, a lot of things, though, that, if you believe that it's right, you don't not do it because people are going to protest.
I mean, I think there's a reason why administrations prior to this didn't do it. Said they were going to do it, but didn't do it. There's a reason why most countries around the world haven't done this. Mm-hmm. Because of the outcome that we're seeing right now.
Well, but you could also argue that the nations around the world perhaps aren't doing it because many of the nations around the world are very well-known anti-Semitic nations.
Well,
anti-Semitism is a terrible problem in Europe.
Oh, sure, but is the government in Great Britain, are they anti-Semites? I don't think so.
I think a lot of the people that vote for them are.
I don't think Theresa May is an anti-Semite.
I don't think she is either.
I mean, I don't think Angela Merkel is an anti-Semite.
I'm not positive.
I don't think Emmanuel Macron is an anti-Semite.
Listen. I know a lot of the people that voted for Angela Merkel are, and I know that a lot of her base are. So I'm when you're talking UK, all right, I'm willing to.
I think that's a shaky statement that you made. I don't think Macron, I don't think May, I don't think Merkel, I don't think they're anti-Semites.
Yeah, I don't think they are personally. I'm not sure that a lot of leaders care about things like that, like we've mentioned many times prior on this show. I'm not sure that leaders care about things and they care about minutia like that. A lot of ways. I mean, I don't think that Donald Trump is actually a racist. A lot of people think he is.
Quacks like a duck.
Well, then if Donald Trump, if we're okay with calling Donald Trump a racist, then I'm certainly okay with calling leaders of Europe anti-Semites.
Hey,
I'm certainly okay
Josh,
with that.
I tried. I don't like throwing that around too much. I don't. I've said it before. I've seen too much from him to question otherwise.
Okay, and that's fine. So if we're laying,
I'm sorry, I haven't seen anything that would suggest that Emmanuel Macron or Theresa May or Angela Merkel or whoever else. I don't know. I mean,
their parties support things like that.
I know May's part of the Conservative Party. I know Macron's on the liberal side or the left side of in France. Not quite sure Merkel is, but man, I haven't heard anything that would suggest that those individuals are.
Okay, well, I mean, yeah, I don't have their their entire record in front of me either. So, but the countries are though. I mean, a lot of people in those countries are. That is certain. You know, I mean, any Jew will tell you that that Europe has a much bigger problem with anti-Semitism than the United States.
Look, I'm not debating the the notion that anti-Semitism doesn't still have a prominent voice in Europe. I'm sure it still lies there, but to say that certain European countries aren't moving their embassies from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem because they're anti-Semites, or they might have.
Well, maybe they're waiting for somebody, the Stones, to do it first.
Maybe. Like I said,
I mean, you said the United States is the world leader. If you're the world leader, then you gotta take the forefront on these things. But that's fine. That really isn't my point. I was trying to actually agree with your points on that earlier. My point is more that I just don't understand why, after 100 years or after 1,000 years, we, as a nation or as a people, call it the UN, call it whatever you want, why we don't either A, allow people who are insisting on fighting over a piece of land fight over it, or B, if fighting and killing is truly something that the so heavily moralistic nations of the world just can't abide, then stop it. Like that's the other, that's the other way to get around it too. I'm saying, hey, mind your own business. Let these people figure it out on their own. But if you really want to wave the big stick and be the world power, then you could always put a stop to it too.
Do you think the United States feels a little bit of personal responsibility though, because of how much they've equipped Israel?
Perhaps, but they've equipped other parts of the Middle East too, and I actually like to blame it more on. I see everybody loves to blame the United States as the world power. Oh, they're the world power, and they're not doing as good a job as they should as the world power. But if you're gonna blame a world power on the state of Israel, then the world power you need to look at is the United Kingdom, and how they then were unable to be the world power anymore after World War II, and they dropped it in the lap of the United States of America. I mean, a lot of what the United States has done as a world power is fixing the screw-ups of the world powers before them. Now, I'm not, this is basically me saying, hey, when you're the world power, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. It's rough, and you're going to make mistakes. You could say the same thing about the UK before that, or other world powers before them. But still, it's there. It's not like the United States jumped in as the world power, and then all of a sudden it was just like, well, we get to do whatever we want. No, it was fixing a whole bunch of other people's mistakes, too. Was Israel a mistake? No, I don't think that. I don't think that. I'm a Zionist.
Israel getting their own country?
Yeah, I don't think
it's a mistake
is.
either.
I don't think it's a mistake, but I am a Zionist. But I'm an American Christian Zionist. It's not really the same as being a Torah thumping Zionist, but it is a Zionist in the form of the ism for sure. But those are the isms that controlled the 20th century. Are Zionism, fascism, and communism controlled the 20th century, and we're still just trying to hold the puzzle back together. So I don't know. So I just question. I don't know why we don't just back out and stop giving everybody money and just let them figure it out. Obviously, us pumping money into both sides of this conflict hasn't solved it. And despite what many countries in the world think, the United States really doesn't actually have the money to just keep shipping it over to all these other countries. So how about we keep our money? And oh no, what if we keep our money and the Israelis and the Muslims keep killing each other? Like giving them money didn't stop that from happening. And I'm not trying to be crass about it, but they didn't. I talked to American Jews and American Muslims, and they seem to be pretty much spread out on this issue, no different than Christian or secular Americans are. I've heard it both ways, but the American versions of Muslims and Jews aren't the same as the people over there. It's real to them, and they're fighting for something. So I just kind of, really, I'm sorry. I know I feel like I'm becoming more and more libertarian every day, but I think it's maybe just time that people started minding their own business when it came to this. I think it's time after 100 years of trying to make it right and 1,000 years of it not being right before that. When do we just start saying, you know what, this actually isn't our problem?
You know what, Josh? I'm not saying you're wrong there. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Again, don't move the embassy. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's not. I don't think that helps the situation that you're trying to push here.
You could be right. You could be right. I don't really think it helps it or hurts it or does, I think it's just another cog in this conflict that's been going on since before our great-great-grandparents were born.
Do we have another cog somewhere else in the world that's...
We do. Kim Jong Un, right? Another one we're in the middle of, and this could be a good thing because the Korean conflict all of a sudden maybe took a turn for the good, but you got a whole bunch of Trumpkins screaming Korean War's over, and that really isn't the case either. But Kim Jong Un,
I guess technically it is over because they finally signed.
They did, yeah. No, they did.
So
and hey, Trump and the United States and the administration deserve some credit for that. But Kim Jong Un didn't all of a sudden become a sane and righteous player in the world because one good step was taken, and Kim Jong Un has canceled the talks.
It isn't canceled it; they're threatening to cancel it.
I thought he canceled it.
No,
are you sure?
They're threatening to cancel if they don't
for tomorrow. No, but they were supposed to start tomorrow. They canceled that.
They canceled the talks with the South Korean leader.
Right.
They haven't canceled the talks with Trump in the beginning of June.
No, it's not all over with, but it is a step backwards.
Yes.
They canceled the talks with South Korea for tomorrow because they don't like that the United States and South Korea are having joint military operations, which, again, we've gone the last 10 years talking about how Kim Jong Un and his dad and his grandpa were crazy. So I don't think we all of a sudden need to start acting like they're not crazy. Mm-hmm. Just because they did something, and we didn't. The United States and South Korea didn't start doing joint military operations yesterday. That's old news. So the fact that Kim Jong Un would cancel because of that is, well, it's his prerogative, but doesn't make a ton of sense because that's not new. It's not like he just found out.
Well, a couple of things here, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kim Jong Un and the Kim dynasty is obviously, I think they're crazy, but they're not stupid either. I think they're very smart. I think they're very strategic in what they.
I think they're crazy like a fox.
Yeah, in what they.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. And what they want to do and what they want to accomplish. I think one of the main reasons why we're at this point now, where there is some dialogue, and it seems like it's positive dialogue as opposed to aside from what happened today, is because Kim Jong Un has accomplished what they've always been set out to accomplish, which is develop a nuclear weapon that can be fitted to a warhead that can be launched. They'll always have that knowledge on how to do that. So they come to a position, they come to the table with some leverage now, with some very real leverage that they didn't have before. So they can shut down their nuclear, facilities and whatnot, and it seems like it's a good move, and in some ways it is a good move. But it's not like they can, it's not like they can't go back on that knowledge that they have and just restart it again. I mean, we're seeing what's happening in Iran right now, where they're talking about, we're going to go and start things back up again. We have the knowledge on how to do it. We're going to start it back up.
This is weird to me because I don't know anything about this stuff, the science behind it, but I feel like, they talk about these people have the knowledge to do it. Don't more than enough people in the world have enough knowledge? Don't we all have the knowledge?
Well,
can't they just Google it? I mean, if
I don't know.
If you don't, can't you get a room full of smart dudes together and just?
Well, I think
smart people, men and women.
I think there's the knowledge, Josh, and it seems like there has to be the developing the processes in order to do it. I mean, and we're talking about making a nuclear bomb. We're not talking about making a developing the technology for
to make a roast.
Or developing automatic lawnmowers or something like that. I mean, it's a nuclear weapon that we're talking about here.
Perhaps I'm just thinking room full of super smart people and the Google box, and you got a nuke.
Well, if that's the case, then
is that totally ignorant on my part to be thinking that?
Well, again, how come other countries haven't done this?
Because they don't have the money, but it's not that they don't have the knowledge.
Well, it's not like they
don't have the means.
I don't know if. I mean,
I feel like I could build a tank but I don't have the money.
If you had the money to do it.
Yeah.
See, I don't know if you can just Google a tank and then have the wherewithal to go and actually produce the tank. I don't think it quite works.
No, I know I don't have the money to do it, or the money to make myself an F-16. But I feel like if I had, $50 million
that you can construct a tank.
Yeah, that I could make an F-16.
See, I don't think you can, but whatever.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna hire some mechanics and stuff who are smart.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
again, I think when you're dealing with
nuts and bolts, right?
I think when you're dealing with nuclear weapons, it's a bit of a different ballgame.
Maybe.
But anyways, though, I don't know.
I still think we're I still think they're kind of taking the step in the right direction over in Korea.
Well, I mean, things are
we haven't had this kind of positive talk about North Korea and South Korea talking well, ever in my lifetime. So I guess I'm glad. I guess we're crazy to think that, like, oh well, yeah, they shook hands, so now it's all over with. Yeah,
Sure.
but I guess it's still a good thing.
But I mean, I see what you're saying here, and sure, things are better now than what they were, 6 months ago. I mean, I don't think that there's any debate about that. But anybody thinking that, North Korea is going to be going into this all of a sudden just, oh, we're dismantling, we're going to get on board with everything that you want, and everything's going to be hunky dory and great. I think they're sadly mistaken. I think that there's a lot more that goes into this than just what has already happened.
It's really too bad that they couldn't have maybe shaken hands and stepped over into each other's borders and smiled for the cameras 30 years ago, when neither of them had the ability to make nukes. And really, it's actually kind of a shame that we just stood there and let it come to this for all these years.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And your boy Rand Paul was on CNN today, and he was giving his theory on what happened, and it seemed pretty legitimate, because North Korea is having some issue with these joint military exercises, which they didn't seem to have a problem with a few weeks ago,
or for the last 20 years.
Well, they've always had problems with them.
Right. They've
always saw these as a threat.
But they weren't using it as their reasoning for not moving forward.
Well, again, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand, is North Korea has always been willing to come to the table. They've always wanted to come to the table and talk. More so now than any other time, because, like I said, they have nuclear leverage now. No other leader's been willing to meet with them. But again, that's something completely different.
It is. No, I mean, and North Korea is the one that has at certain times wanted to come to the table, and that's mostly because their economy is always a disaster. Their people are always starving, and their country's a mess. Where South Korea isn't.
No, South Korea is very prosperous.
Actually, most times South Korea is a pretty nice place to be.
Yeah. You could go and live in South Korea. Coming over from the United States, and I mean,
they like their video games.
Their video games. I mean, it's. I don't want to say it's like the United States, but it's a modern city.
Oh, absolutely. They're a developed nation.
Yeah, they're a very developed nation. But Rand Paul was giving his thoughts, and
how does hair look?
I was listening to it. I'm assuming.
Okay.
I'm assuming it was, froed out.
Froed out.
Well, not froed, but permed out.
Oh God, Rand Paul's hair is great.
No, but he was saying that
handsome man.
The problem this time around is, they're going to have these talks. They've talked about dismantling their program. They released those prisoners, and they're still having these exercises. I think he's saying that they may be a little pissed off because it seems like they're doing all of this stuff, and the United States isn't doing anything in return. They're not calling off these joint military exercises, and that could be the issue here with it. So, could it be?
Yeah,
sure it could.
No, and
I don't think that very well could be the case. I think there's probably more to it, judging with who we're dealing with. But I certainly think that could be a start. That could be a good basis to the whole theory.
Yeah, no, it makes some sense for sure. Again, I feel like so many people always want to, and I know the United States is the world power, and they're always the one people are looking at, but people are always wanting to blame the United States for the issues that are happening. It's like, isn't this between North Korea and South Korea? And isn't the last thing we were talking about between Israel and the Palestinians?
I wasn't blaming the United States in this.
Yeah. No, I know you weren't. But I feel like when you watch the news, a lot of times that's what people want to say, that what did the United States do to make this happen?
Oh, you know what? I don't even think the news was blaming anybody over this. I mean, Wolf Blitzer was even saying that they didn't have a problem 3 weeks ago when they were when they were conducting these these drills. Why are they having a problem with it now? That's paraphrasing the question to Rand Paul, and he gave his answer. Like I said, it's the person that we're dealing with. It's the person that Kim Jong Un is, and that all the Kims were.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not. I mean, these aren't. He's not a rational person.
No.
They're none of them were rational people.
They're not stable. They're not.
I mean,
rational.
that's why. I mean,
they're not logical.
Yeah, that's why these talks are still very, very frightening. And and a couple of weeks ago when I said that, if these talks don't go well, what comes after this? What else is there to do? And again, I mean, dialogue is good, but going from one end to, I mean, it's like a video game, Josh. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like putting in that cheat code. Or it's like playing Mario Brothers where you find the warp, and all of a sudden you go from World 1, 2 to I don't think you can go. What's the last world in Mario 1?
8-1, 8-4.
Yeah, I don't think you could get there from 1, 2.
No, from 2-2 you go to you. Yeah,
see, I know you knew.
Yeah. No, from 2-2 you can go to 4, and then what is it then? Yeah, from 2-2 you can go to 4-2. From 4-2 you go to 6, 7, or 8.
But you get my point.
Yeah,
though. I mean, it's not like you could sit here and warp from the first world all the way to the eighth world.
And that's a great point too, because it's not like when you warp,
I knew you think it was a great point.
It's not like when you warp to World 8, when you're just starting to play the game, you warp to World 8 and you've never beaten 4, 5, 6, or 7.
Exactly.
It's not like you all of a sudden know how to beat 8.
Exactly.
Just because you got there.
Exactly.
It's baby steps.
So
you took a big jump ahead, but now you're gonna have to learn how to play on the next level.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in Mario 3 too, when you get the flute.
Yep.
You get the flute, and all of a sudden you go to the last one. You're dealing with all that fire shit on that ship.
Right.
Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, it's like it's pretty obvious. World 4 was kicking my ass, and now I'm supposed to beat 8.
Yeah, I had trouble with the water world where I was jumping around as that stupid frog.
Yeah.
I gotta deal with this shit.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's true. No, it's a good point. Just because you jumped ahead doesn't mean you absolutely positively know how to fix the next set of problems. So hey, it's baby steps over there, and I'm glad they're taking them. I'm glad they're at least taking the baby steps. There's a spot here in the United States, non-contiguous United States, but albeit United States, that they don't need to Google how to make explosions because they just come out of the ground. And that is
speaking of that fire world.
Yeah, that is Hawaii. Hawaii is kind of it is like Mario 3 World 8 right now. Definitely a fire world. Perhaps we're exaggerating when we say that, but they're erupting big time though on the main island, man.
Yeah, it's scary. And,
that poor Mustang they keep showing on TV.
The white one.
Yeah, it gets covered. It's like they could have got that out of there. It's a nice car. Get that out of there, man.
Well, I was thinking, I was like, okay, this lava moves incredibly slow.
Yeah.
The person sitting there with that video camera, you're not going to sit there and alert, hey, whose white Mustang is that?
Mm-hmm.
You might want to move it because there's a wall of fucking lava coming its way.
Yeah, I'm wondering, did they pull the 5.0 motor out of that Mustang beforehand and then put it in something else, and then they're going to cash in the insurance on the empty shell? That's what I'm wondering.
I don't. It's just. I don't. I think they're looking for that viral video.
Yeah. It's like, dude, Jim didn't move his Mustang. Okay,
dude, set up the camera. Yeah. We're gonna post this bitch on YouTube and get some views.
Yeah.
It's scary though, dude. Like I saw this video of like this lava flow just heading towards this person's house. And there's going to be nothing you can do about this lava flow that's coming from your house. I mean, the only thing that you can do is pack up as much shit as you can, given the time that you have, and get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, put it in your SUV, leave your Mustang behind. And...
Yeah, leave your Mustang behind. Apparently there's not two people that can,
Yeah, exactly.
They can drive, but...
get up out of there, I guess.
That's my question, too. That's a good question. Is whose Mustang is this? And how come somebody couldn't move it for them?
I don't know. Maybe Maybe it's just bad luck. Like they were loading up both the cars that day, and
You can only choose one.
yeah, or just like that was the day the starter went. You know, like oh really? Do I replace the starter in this Mustang? Now, you know what? I think the lava's just gonna get it, man. Like dogs barking, kids crying, the Ford pickup's loaded up. It's like screw it, man. I guess I gotta leave the Mustang. Oh well.
Can you imagine seeing those?
It's like, it's your wife saying, like, I told you to get that thing running. I told you to get that thing running 2 weeks ago. You didn't, and now lava's coming. Lava is coming.
It sucks, though. I mean,
Dude, you should have sold it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you know, the price of living in paradise, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything worse than you know dealing with lava flows.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, I mean, they move slow, so you can usually get out of there, but yeah, it's kind of a bummer, you know. But hey, we're here in Detroit. It's not paradise. The weather here sucks. I got soaked again today.
It's in the morning. It wasn't bad later on.
Yeah, until I tried to get some work done in the day job, and then got soaked. But you know, we don't have lava though.
No, we don't.
There's no lava here. There is no lava here in the D. You know, plenty of rain and snow and high winds and chilly temperatures, but no lava. No lava.
Mm-hmm.
Not a thing. Not a thing here in Detroit. But anyway, I hope the people in Hawaii, I hope they, you know, I'm sure eventually it'll stop erupting. It is the youngest island, and the volcanoes happen, and yeah, I don't know.
Is Hawaii is the Big Island the youngest island?
I think that's what they were saying. Yeah, that's the youngest island. That's why it's still active. That's why that.
I just want to see Kauai where they filmed Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Maui, it sounds like, is the place to go. I've never been to Hawaii at all, but
I've been to Oahu.
Oh, have you?
Waikiki Beach.
Oh, cool.
When I was in third grade. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I'd rather go to Maui though.
Really?
This time around, yeah, I always heard Maui's the best.
Oahu is where you went?
Yeah, I went to Oahu.
I had some family that lived on Oahu.
Yeah, Oahu's the most populous, the biggest. You know,
that's where the military base is, right?
That's where Pearl Harbor is.
Okay, yeah, that's the. You know, my family members, mine were in the Army. Or, yeah, I think they were stationed on Oahu.
Yeah, I mean, it's Waikiki Beach. It's, Diamond Head is there, and, Pearl Harbor is there. And I mean, it's still a beautiful place, but like I said, I think...
Oh, I'm sure everything there. I'm sure
a lot of prostitutes.
Oh, really?
A lot of homeless people.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. A lot of prostitutes.
Oh, awesome.
I think
maybe Maui isn't the one I want to go to.
I don't think I've seen so many prostitutes in my entire life. Then again, I was only in like 5th grade when I went. But
All right. Well, hey, this whole episode of the XCast has kind of been a big news section, but I think, are we ready to go? Do we have a proper news section today? Are we ready to go around the Empire?
Yes, and
with you, Adam Hernandez.
Yep, and we're going to start off with some sports news. And Robinson Cano, Mariners second baseman, was suspended for 80 games, violating MLB's drug policy. Tested positive for Duratec, which he says was prescribed to him by a doctor, and it's actually not a performance-enhancing drug, but it is on the MLB's banned substances list. He's accepted the suspension, though. He's going to be out for 80 games.
Wow.
I don't,
80 games.
80 games. And obviously Robinson Cano, one of the best, arguably the best second baseman in the MLB today. Great hitter, awesome offensive player. I don't know. When you look at something like this, I think you really need to question, the extent of MLB's drug policy with all of this.
Or just the methodology of their drug policy.
Yes. Okay, I think there's an argument to be had when it comes to PEDs. Strictly PEDs. Personally, I don't think that anything should be banned at this point in time. But when you're talking about something that is prescribed to you by a doctor for an injury,
Yeah.
is that really something that needs to be banned? I know Andy Pettit, I believe, was had the same issue where he was taking something that would help him get over an injury faster.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you want? Isn't that kind of the point of medicine to begin with? Is
Right.
to help you get over an injury?
Right.
I don't see.
Well,
I don't see the argument here.
And then with that, comes down to. I mean, does that enhance their performance? Well, I guess they're all performance-enhancing drugs, aren't they?
So is
Advil.
Is
right?
Advil a performance-enhancing drug? Because if you have a headache or some type of light pain,
your back hurts because you've been playing baseball for your whole life.
Exactly.
Or you've been playing football for your whole life, so you know.
Yeah, I don't understand the argument when it comes to these types of drugs that may help you get over an injury.
I mean,
to me, that's the point of a over-the-counter prescribed medications to help you get over an ailment.
Yeah.
So
no, I'm kind of with you at this point. I feel like if something should be banned, maybe ban steroids. Anabolic steroids injected.
And this was a steroid. This is a steroid.
Yeah, I know.
But it's not a performance-enhancing steroid.
Right, and it's not an injected thing.
I mean, people get steroids all the time. I mean, I remember when I had mono.
Yeah.
I got a steroid to help me get over that.
I had a cousin who is very athletic and did a lot of things, and he had asthma growing up, really bad asthma. He was on steroids for like 10 years because of asthma, and he's like, I don't know, maybe it actually helped me with sports because I was on steroids for. He was legitimately on steroids for 10 years. He's like, I don't know, maybe that helped me. I don't know. But at this point, yeah, I've done a 180 on this to some degree, but I don't know that anything should even be banned anymore because it's all such a sham. It's also silly. It seems like the people that get the suspensions half the time are the ones that don't deserve it, and then the ones that really are taking the PEDs get away with it for so long, and I don't know. I'm often wondering if anything should be if they shouldn't just let them do what they want to do.
Yeah. This one kind of sad. I mean, given the building it was in, the historic building, but a fire heavily damages the historic Milwaukee church. Firefighters on Tuesday afternoon were battling a 4-alarm fire at the Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church in downtown Milwaukee. The church near North 9th Street and West Highland Avenue is on the National Register of Historic Places. It was actually built in 1847, or founded in 1847 by immigrants from Pomerania, Germany. And it's the second oldest Missouri Synod congregation in Wisconsin. But yeah, very cool looking building, and that's something that I am very much into myself. Is this old? Old kind of Gothic architecture? And this isn't Gothic. It looks like it's like I don't know the correct term for it. I don't know if it's kind of like a more modern Gothic type of architecture. Definitely a cool looking building, and it sucks that it's definitely not a church that you would certainly see built in today's day and age that look more like community centers than
sucks that it was damaged.
Than anything else. I don't know if it. Well, these old buildings, I'm sure they'll try to find a way to rebuild it, but yeah,
hard to restore that stuff to it.
Fire looks very, very bad in this.
So who put this up?
German immigrants.
Because Milwaukee has had its fair share of visitors. I don't know if you knew this, but Milwaukee is Algonquin for the good land.
The good land, yep. And I think probably the most interesting part about Milwaukee is it's the only major American city that's elected. Was it 3 socialist mayors? Is it 2 socialist mayors?
Yes, there's about 30% of the people listening right now are getting what we're laying down with this Wayne's World reference.
I think one of my favorite parts of that entire
the Alice Cooper Wayne's World Milwaukee part is incredible. So for probably the majority of people listening who had no idea what we were just talking about, go watch Wayne's World. Come on.
After the show.
Yeah, after the show. Go watch Wayne's World.
Isn't Milwaukee an Indian name? Well, yes, it is, Pete.
It's actually Algonquin for the good land.
Does this guy know how to party or what?
Wayne's World. Such a classic.
Isn't how Alice Cooper? I think that's how Alice Cooper actually is, though.
I think it is too. Yeah.
I think that's his.
They say he's very subtle. He's very religious.
Is he
He's
religious?
very religious man, very subtle, and a big golfer.
Yeah, I know he likes to golf. I've seen him out there and like his.
I actually heard that a bunch of his buddies have like a running joke with him whenever he makes a bad shot, because that's like the thing. They're like, "Come on, Alice." Yeah, it's a kind of famous thing you say to other dudes when you're out on the golf course.
And other sports news, Golden State Warriors former player Steve Kerr says there's no way he could have played in the current day NBA. During Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, the Warriors head coach talked about the evolution of pro basketball since his days as a player in the 1990s. I came around at the right time 20 years ago, he said. Is there anything else that you could say? I don't know, Josh. You're one of those. I don't know if you want to say an NBA purist, but you definitely seem to favor the NBA of the 1980s and the 1990s. And I will agree. It was certainly a different a different kind of game. A different type of game than what it is now.
I do think it is, and I think in a lot of ways, if the game was officiated back then, that some of the other teams were excellent. But with that being said, irregardless of the era, this current Golden State Warriors team is one of the best teams in NBA history. I mean, I absolutely firmly believe that they should be absolutely remembered with the bad boys and
they certainly
Boston Celtics of the 70s.
They certainly have an old school feel to them, whether it's obviously Draymond Green, the way that he the way that his game is. I mean, obviously he kind of reminds you of a Rick Mahorn or Bill Laimbeer, or just I don't want to say the swagger, but just the the very unapologetic way that he conducts himself, which is very, very Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird,
Charles Barkley,
yeah. Michael Jordan. I mean, that's how it was back then. And again, that's what I always loved about the older NBA. I tend to say that conditioning and the athleticism is much better now than what it was then. But as far as you
can almost tell that just by simply looking at them.
Oh, sure.
Just look at what kind of shape they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was obviously different. There was definitely a more. I think there's a more gritty mentality back then.
Oh, for sure.
I think there was a take no prisoners mentality back then than what there is now. I mean, I don't think you would. You said this on the majors. You said it many times before. I don't think you'd ever have Larry Bird hearken to plan a team with Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. I mean, that's something that would never happen, and that's something that I don't like Kobe Bryant as a person. I think he's a dirtbag, but there was something that you could say about his mentality on the basketball court that he certainly was, more of that old school mold as opposed to what it is now. Where he wasn't out there to make friends. He was out there to win basketball games. So, I don't know. I'm not going to say Steve Kerr is wrong in what he said. I mean, obviously he's a guy that is, he's put his foot into the pool on, in both eras.
Sure.
He knows what it's like, and I'm not going to question him and all of that. So, I don't know. I can respect his opinion on that. What else do we have here?
It's. I think what you just said too, what we were just saying about the NBA, I think that's very true about the NFL too. you know, with I remember watching football when I was a kid, and the linebackers, the defensive line, the offensive line, guys like that, a lot of them still kind of looked fat.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? It's not like they weren't muscular or
Mm-hmm.
they weren't strong as hell, but those guys, a lot of those big time players, even your tight end from time to time, these guys just looked big and they look kind of fat. Now, when you watch the NFL, nobody looks like that.
Yeah, looks like they could. It looks like they could put back some cheeseburgers, and
Right.
it looks like they had a cheeseburger and a beer after the game, as
Right.
opposed
And
to
now
a
the guys-
protein shake. And
Now the guys, they're all just
no, I know
they're
what you're
just
saying.
specimens.
Yeah.
They're just amazing looking specimens of men. It's so it's kind of incredible, and that's not how sports were when I was a kid.
No, you take like a guy like
your quarterback might have looked like that.
yeah, one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, Aaron Donald. I mean, he's a defensive lineman. He's a defensive tackle, and yes, I mean, 15 years ago, probably would have had a big gut on him,
Right.
And again, like you're saying, it's not to say that he's not strong as hell, and
I couldn't move him.
Yeah, he could put somebody on their ass, but yeah, I mean, the makeup is completely different now than what it was then.
Yeah, it's in its conditioning and just athleticism. It's
yeah, absolutely. A judge rejects Paul Manafort's bid to dismiss the Mueller probe indictment. A federal judge in D.C., one of the districts where the ex-Trump campaign official faces charges, denied Manafort's bid to dismiss the indictment against him. Manafort had claimed Mueller's Russia probe is too broad. The decision was not a surprise, expert said. So it looks like that's going to continue to move forward. And it's a very, it's a, I don't want to say it's an unfortunate situation for Paul Manafort, but he can't approach this the same way that his counterpart Rick Gates approached it. The difference is Rick Gates is a younger guy, obviously has a family. He's got to think about that, and he knows that he doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in jail and miss out on his kids' lives. Paul Manafort, on the other hand, is an older guy. A 15-year, 20-year jail sentence may as well be a life sentence in his case. So, I don't know. He's doing a lot of pushback on this, and I don't know if it's the right thing to do. I don't know if you just sit there, come to a plea agreement, and try to limit the time you're in jail as much as you possibly can. Who knows? I'm not a legal expert, though. So,
no, yeah, I mean, jail sucks, but I don't, but.
In Royals news, and too bad we don't have Tiffany here tonight to talk about this, but TMZ is reporting that Meghan Markle's father is to undergo a heart surgery and will not attend the royal wedding. It seems like this was...
Is that for sure? That's definitely...
it seems like it was going back and forth. He had the heart attack, then he was going to attend, then he wasn't, then he was, and all of a sudden we're hearing that he's going to have heart surgery and he's not going to be able to attend. It says TMZ is reporting that Thomas Markle will undergo heart surgery and cannot attend the royal wedding. The news comes after he told TMZ that he wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle. Especially in this sense, right? I mean, this isn't your regular run-of-the-mill wedding.
I gotta tell you, man. This is one of those moments where, as a dad, you kind of have to be like, listen, my daughter's getting married, and she happens to be marrying the Prince of England, and I'm gonna take my chances on that one. I'm sorry, like, you gotta be there.
Yeah,
you gotta be there. I'm say, listen, pump me full of something, and I'm gonna be at the wedding, and I'll be at the hospital right after.
Okay, can't you call the Queen of England and be like, hey, can you send me like a private plane, full of doctors,
right,
just to get me over there, just to make sure that I'm okay.
Just get me there.
Yeah, I'm okay and everything on this flight, and just do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Do me a solid.
Yeah, like, come on, I'll owe you forever. No, I'm serious. I'd be there. I know that's mean to say, because I'm sure this guy's dealing with legitimate problems, but I'm not missing my daughter's wedding. How my daughter's not going to marry the Prince of England, but I'm not missing her wedding. I'm not like that's I get 2 daughters, and I'm gonna be there at their weddings. That's
Josh,
for sure.
I think I agree with you on this.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, really, I'm sorry. You can say, oh, easy for you to say. No, not easy for me to say. I'm gonna be there.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Actually,
So you gonna wake up at 3 a.m. and watch the wedding?
Fuck no.
I don't know if
I'm guessing Tiffany probably is.
Oh no, Tiffany is, and so am I.
Oh, you're watching it too?
Oh yeah, but we haven't decided if we're going to watch it together.
Oh really? You guys might watch it together?
Well, but I doubt it. It's like 4 a.m. I'll watch it at home and shoot her a text.
Do you get? I mean, is this? I mean, I want to know if Tiffany's treating this like you would like a Super Bowl party.
Oh, I think she is.
I mean, is there gonna be like wings and
probably
and dips and
probably.
I mean, do you kind of do? I mean, I don't know. Is this something different? Do you kind of treat it like like a brunch almost? A brunch seems more appropriate,
right?
It seems more elegant. It seems more fine.
Like there should be
like finger sandwiches.
Yeah, sandwiches and mimosas.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if there's ever truly a time when you're supposed to have a mimosa.
I'm guessing you're not going to have a mimosa if you do this. I'm guessing you're going to bring your Natural Light. Which is Natural Light the official beer of the XCast?
Probably should be. Yeah, Miller High Life was always the official beer of Detroit Rowdy Radio, so Natural Light should probably be the official beer of the XCast. but no, I don't see it really how that's like a drinking event here in the United States when it's going to be like 4 a.m. But maybe, I mean, hey, more power to you if it is. But yeah, that could be a rough one.
I'd be interested because I'd be interested to hear her take on it. Because what is it? Is it this weekend?
Yeah, it's this weekend, and then this Tuesday will be the show. So we're gonna have big coverage on it. Week from tonight on the greatest podcast in history.
Cool.
With Tiffany and I, we are going to have a historical topic as well, but that's a good portion of the show next week is going to be devoted to this royal wedding for sure.
All right. Gap says it's sorry for Sherps with incorrect map of China. The U.S. clothing giant angered some shoppers who cited a historic debate over whether Taiwan and other territories should be included on a map of China. And yeah, it's there. I mean, yeah, because they put the. Let me get a close up of this shirt here. They do. They put like the. Yeah, it says China, and they include Taiwan on there. So yeah, I could see the uproar over something like this.
Yeah,
it's usually these clothing companies too that come up with these gaffes.
Yeah,
like I remember what was it, a couple of years ago when Victoria's Secret came out with their Michigan State line, and they had like the Spartan logo and it said "Hail to the Victors" on it. So stupid.
That's just people doing dumb stuff.
Yeah. I mean, don't you think you run that by somebody first?
You'd think so. You'd think somebody would catch that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a big rivalry.
I mean, yeah, and in China, Taiwan, Taiwan is, well, historically it's still part of China, but yeah, I know it's different. It's when I was in college, I wrote a paper. The paper probably wasn't very good, but I loved the title. It was about U.S. foreign policy in China, and it was titled "One China, Two China, Red China, New China." And if you know the history of American foreign policy, at first there was we only recognized the one China, then we recognized the two Chinas, and then
it's a one China policy.
Yeah, and then the two China policy, and then it was Red China because it was communist, so they agreed with it. But then Nixon came out with the new China policy. So one China, two China, Red China, New China. I love the title. Like I said, I'm not sure the paper was worth a damn, but the title was legit.
Journalist Tom Wolfe died at the age of 88. He's the author of of novels such as Electric Kool-Aid, Acid Test, The Right Stuff, and what's the other one? The Bonfire of...
The Vanities?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bonfire of the Vanities.
Yeah. I'm not a reader, so...
Yeah. It's a very famous book.
Yeah. Not a reader.
This would be like... This would be like if we're just like, this is, I'm not a movie watcher. It's like, but it's Saving Private. I don't remember.
I never read Bonfire. I've seen Saving Private Ryan though.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, Saving Private Ryan.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Good call.
Band of
cousins, brothers.
Brothers.
Definitely Band of Brothers.
the Godmother.
God niece.
Godfather?
And Godfather 2 and Godfather 3. Yeah. Those were books too. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know there were books, yeah.
Well, it's actually just one book. Just Godfather.
Oh, and did he do Godfather 2?
No, Godfather 1 and Godfather 2 are actually both pretty much based off the book, The Godfather.
Okay.
Yeah.
You Godfather 1 or 2 fan? Which one's your favorite?
One, but I love them both.
Yeah, they're both good.
No, they're both, but yeah, I love Godfather 2, but I'm not one of those people that is bold enough to say it's better than the first one. I still think
it seems like there's more people out there that like Godfather 2 more than Godfather 1. I like Godfather 1 better.
Yeah, no, I Godfather 1, Godfather. I actually like Godfather 3 as well, and I know a lot of people hate on Godfather 3, but I feel like you only hate on it because you only compare it to the first two.
That's the thing,
and
I think it's a very relative opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's nowhere near as good as 1 or 2, but it's actually still a very good film.
Yeah,
it's actually still a really good movie. And when you compare it to just movies in general, then you will find that Godfather 3 it's actually a damn good movie. It's just not as good as 1 and 2, which are two of the best movies of all time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
an
tough
unfair.
Tough
it's an unfair comparison, especially because it came out so much later than 1 and 2.
Right.
So, I'm with you. I like 1 more. I thought the flashback aspect of 2 was cool.
Oh, super cool.
But
I think all that story is told in the book of The Godfather.
Yeah,
that flashback story.
See, I'm not a reader.
The book is excellent, and a lot of people think like the movies kind of, especially for the time, was kind of gory, but the book is so much worse. It really is. It's so much worse with the but better too. I mean, the very very graphic scenes in the book.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a reader.
Yeah, reading's fundamental, man.
Was it the Vanities?
Bonfire of the Vanities.
Bonfire of the Vanities. What does that even mean?
I never read the book. I've heard of it, but I actually have never read any of those books that you mentioned.
You're one step ahead of me.
But yeah, I know he's very famous books though.
Georgia gubernatorial candidate Michael Williams campaigns with the deportation bus. He's vowing to round up undocumented immigrants and send them home. Georgia Republican Michael Williams' deportation bus is touring cities in the state. And it is a school bus that says "Stay back 1,000 feet." Murderers, rapists, kidnappers, child molesters, and other criminals on board. Follow me to Mexico. Deportation bus. Michael Williams for governor. So basically, this guy's a big time piece of shit. I mean, come on. You can't be against illegal immigration. This is
without being that obnoxious.
Yeah.
Piece of shit might have been much, but
no, he's a fucktard. Sorry about that.
But obnoxious for certain.
And then finally, the Supreme Court the other day just came down and was actually going to give states the choice on whether or not they want to outlaw or make sports gambling legal. They actually didn't make it legal nationwide, which it seems like that's what a lot of people are kind of confusing.
Mm-hmm.
They're just simply giving the states the ability to decide whether or not they want to have sports betting legal in their particular state, which it sounds like a vast majority of states around the country are going to allow sports betting to take place within their state, just because of all the revenue that they're going to be able to get out of it.
See, this is where I differ from a lot of people, because I do believe that sports gambling or any gambling should be legal. I don't see why it isn't. It's a free country after all.
Should be legal.
It should be legal, yes. But I don't support this because I don't think legalizing something and having the government heavily regulate it is the same thing. And to me, legal means that the government's out of it altogether. Mm-hmm. But I do take issue with these things, that these laws were put in place because they were believed to be actions that were immoral. And I don't think immoral actions should be necessarily illegal just because they, stand against someone else's morality. But instead, now our government's decided that, no, all that stuff that was previously deemed immoral by us, so therefore illegal, now we are going to make money off of it. To me, that's the immoral part, is them saying, no, it's immoral, but we're going to then accept that people do it and make a bunch of money off of it. And I actually oppose that. I do. That's why I actually a lot of times oppose laws for the quote-unquote legalization of marijuana, because I think marijuana should be legal, but I don't want the government regulating it. I don't want the government regulating anything.
Would you rather have it legal in the sense that you won't go to jail if you partake in it, or just not have it legal at all?
I guess.
But legal in the sense that the government's going to get their take out of it.
Neither, but I guess. Yeah, I guess. I guess I'm going to err on the side of liberty no matter what. So, yes, I do think that it's better, but I don't think the government needs their...
It doesn't come without strings attached.
Yeah, and quite frankly, much like with the lottery, as soon as the government's involved, I don't really trust it anymore. Sorry, but I actually trust a bookie a hell of a lot more than I trust the government. I really do. I just trust straight up gambling before I trust how the government do. Like look at Keno in your bars, or here in Michigan we had Club Keno in the restaurants and bars, and we have the lottery. Like, I don't trust that crap.
You know what?
I still play it.
You know what, Judge? I don't have as big of a problem with it that you do. As far as the government taxing it right then and there. Take, for instance, if you go to, because you've heard a bunch of different scenarios with all of this. Is they're going to be opening up sports books and arenas, or just in a building right across the street from the stadium itself. And I guess I really don't have a problem, or a huge problem, with it being taxed right there. So say, Josh, you go to the JLA downtown Detroit, and you bet that the Red Wings are going to win that game 3-2, or they're just going to win the game, and they do. You get $10. Government takes what, 13% or something from it right then and there. So you end up getting whatever $10 minus 13%.
Sure.
I'm not going to do the math because I don't read and I don't do math. What I do have a problem with,
$1.30.
yeah, okay. I said $10. That's usually pretty easy. That's a pretty easy one.
No, you know what, Adam?
But I was going to say, what I do have a problem with, though, is that being part of your income, and you having to report that on an income tax.
Right.
That's not an income.
No.
A lottery winning isn't an income. I don't go to work at a sports book and make my living off of it. I know some people try to do that, but
you took a gamble and you lost it, or you won it.
Yeah, that's found money. That's almost like going out in the street and finding a $10 bill laying on the ground. Am I going to go ahead and report that $10 bill on my income tax at the end of the year?
No, Adam,
No.
I agree with you 100% there. And where I also listen, if the government wants to have little stations set up, like you mentioned, and they want to take the cut, just like a bookie gets his juice or whatever they call it, or hey, it's fine, I don't care. But if they are to legalize this, I need it for liberty purposes. I need it to be legal in other aspects of life too. That means that if you and I are watching a game and I say, bet you $50 Boston wins this game, and you say, no, I think Cleveland's going to, and we bet $50 on a game, that should be legal. No government interference whatsoever. And if that is still technically illegal, now I know people do that all the time and that they don't get thrown in jail for it. Mm-hmm. But if that is technically still illegal for me to do that with you, then I very much oppose the government regulating this. If you want to go to a government regulated place and place your bet and make your money and have it guaranteed that way by something, I don't care. But
yeah, because your friend doesn't have to pay you.
No, he doesn't.
He'd be a douchebag and be like,
yeah. No, but that's where my problem lays, is when the government likes to say we're legalizing something and then we're regulating it, but then their unregulated version is still illegal. I have a problem with it.
No, I see what you're saying.
That's
legit.
That's where I go. Personally, I don't see why any of that is legal amongst consenting adults. I do not see why it's illegal to have 10 guys over for a poker game and you each throw $500 in and winner takes all. I don't see why that's illegal.
Well, it's illegal in the same sense that the NCAA doesn't allow, players to hold jobs or anything like that.
That's their rules, though.
I know, but
that's actually not illegal.
But it's the same concept, though, because the NCAA can't get their cut out of that. In the same sense that the government can't get their cut out of this.
And I get it. And the NCAA is a private organization.
Yeah, I get it too.
They're a private organization that you choose to be in. And granted, they have a complete monopoly over this because the NCAA, you choose to be in it. But let's face it, it's the only game in town. So if you want to play sports on that level, then you're going to have to roll with the NCAA.
Yeah.
But I don't have to.
It was an analogy.
Gamble. No, I understand. And the analogy is sound. It's just where I disagree is that it's government and we don't ever have a choice when government's involved. We don't have a choice as to how our liberties are infringed upon or how our laws are, help us or penalize us.
All right.
But
that's it, Josh.
That is it. So I know sometimes, I'm a very libertarian guy, and I know sometimes that makes it seem like I'm taking the non-libertarian stance on these things, but really I just want the government out of it. I don't want them to say gambling's illegal or gambling's legal now, but now all of a sudden it's harder to gamble now than it was beforehand. Just like with marijuana. Mm-hmm. Oh, marijuana's legal, but now it's harder to, get pot than it was back in the 70s. Back when people just didn't care. You did it, but it was, just don't tell anybody. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
No, but thanks everybody for tuning in. This was webisode number 82 of the XCast. Thanks for listening once again. Next week we'll be right back here at the same time. But before that, we'll also have the best podcast in history airing on the same channel, same night. So best podcast in history and the XCast coming at you next week. deep issues coming at you later this month. Simulation theory, that is going to be a great one. 29th, right?
Yep.
29th of May will be simulation theory, but we got a lot of great stuff before that with Majors Live and the XCast and the best podcast in history, and we're going to have a lot of fun. A lot of good stuff lined up for you, so thanks for tuning in, everybody.
All right, see you guys later.